What difference will this ceasefire deal make in the broader war?
I think it decouples the Hezbollah from the Hamas attacks on Israel in Gaza. Hamas was relying on Hezbollah and Iran to come into the conflict. So the Israeli military destruction of Hezbollah as a fighting force and its leadership has meant that they've had to disengage. That was not their original plan. Their plan was to stay fighting and keep the Israelis divided on two fronts. It gives the Biden administration a little diplomatic victory before it goes out of office. It means the Israeli army, which is mainly consisted of reserves, can go on a break, or some of them can go on a break. It also means that the partial arms embargo, which Prime Minister Netanyahu hinted at in his reasons for accepting, will presumably be solved over the next month. It also means that there are rockets not being launched on Israeli cities, and similarly that Israeli Air Force isn't attacking military sites in Lebanon where there are sometimes regrettably civilian casualties. So that you have to balance. Netanyahu and his cabinet have had to do this. The military exigencies, which are not all good. I mean, the Hezbollah showed even till yesterday it could still inflict crippling Israel economically, with the political possibilities, and that's what they've done. They've taken it, and it gets them to. This is the most important point, Gabrielle. It's to a safe shore. The ceasefire's only for 60 days, and of course, what happens in 60 days? There is a more pro-Israel administration in Washington, the Trump administration, and Trump will not be involved in the kinds of manoeuvres that the Biden administration was involved in. And I think it'll put the Iranians, who are the sponsors of all of this fighting all over the Middle East, under much more pressure.
How quickly will the Trump administration be able to, I suppose, bring peace to the Middle East like Donald Trump has suggested that he will?
Well, without war, the Biden administration could have done something simple, which I expect Donald Trump to do by executive order in the first few days, and that is issue a directive for the maximum pressure, economic pressure on Iran to resume. The reason we have all of these proxies fighting and attacking Israel in the Iranian orchestrated ring of fire is because the Biden administration dropped the sanctions on the sale of oil by Iran, and that has meant that over $100 billion have flown from Iranian coffers to the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. So by executive order, the president could resume the maximum pressure, and it dries up the financial resources for all of this fighting. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Without even any further military conflict, Iran would be sent the message that you can't sell your oil to China because America will tell the Chinese you can't do trade in the United States if you buy Iranian oil. And prior to, in the previous Trump administration, that really successfully worked. The Iranians were practically broke. They had no money, and they had certainly no money to finance these sort of Middle Eastern wobblies like Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis.
The French government has cast doubt on whether it would arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under warrants issued by the ICC, suggesting that the Israeli leader might have immunity, which of course raises questions about the court's jurisdiction worldwide, doesn't it?
It does. This is a pretty sneaky French deal it's so that they can participate in this Lebanese ceasefire plan. So they've made a side promise to Netanyahu that if he was foolish enough to go to Paris, that Macron would be such a big guy that he wouldn't have him arrested. This decision of the biased International Criminal Court in London, of a prosecutor who's under pressure for his own reasons to avoid the fairness of going to Israel, as he promised the American Senate, to investigate whether legal requirements are carried out by the Israeli army before they do operations. The French promise it carries little weight or little benefit for any of us who are concerned that the International Criminal Court was established for third world countries where the rule of law was not extant. So in Israel, you've got a vibrant, feisty Supreme Court. You've got a parliamentary system. And Israel is, apart from that, like the United States, is not a signatory to the ICC. So the French, they're beating their chest. They're being so generous. They're not going to arrest the leader of a democratic state against all the principles of the ICC. Eventually all of the stories of this will come out. Amal Clooney and all of the advisors of the International Criminal Court are severely biased against Israel, as their pre-existing statements showed. And they were the ones who advised Karim Khan, the prosecutor, to issue these proceedings against all of their own internal principles. What the French say or don't say really makes little difference. If I was an Israeli or American legislator, I'd pay no attention to them.
US President-elect Donald Trump has announced that he's nominating loyalist and retired General Keith Kellogg as his Ukraine envoy, charged with ending the 2.5-year Russian invasion, I should say. How do you see this playing out?
Keith Kellogg's a good guy. He used to be, Donald's been very forgiving because he used to work for Mike Pence. He's a bit softer on Ukraine than I am, or Australian General Mick Ryan, or American expert on this Ben Hodges. But the Americans are going to have a very difficult time because they think they can solve this very quickly. But the problem is Mr. Putin will not be happy just to stay on the borders of Ukraine that he's achieved now, ruining cities in the Donbass and in the land corridor between Mariupol and Kherson to the edge of Crimea. He'll want more, and he'll want to resume military activities later. If General Kellogg can do some kind of holding agreement where the Russians keep the Donbass but give up the land corridor between Mariupol and Kherson, giving the Ukrainians back the use of their coast on the Sea of Azov, that would be a good development. I don't think Donald Trump is going to react well to the millenarianism, the sort of crazy view that Russia has a right to conquer states in Eastern Europe. He won't stop Mr. Putin, and I don't think even he'll be testing Trump every way he can from the minute he gets in on. I wish General Kellogg good luck.
Michael Danby, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much.